How you doing, Blaire?
Good. Happy to be here. Excited.
Thank you for coming.
What are we going to talk about? I have no idea. Probably a lot.
Everything. We're going to talk about the state of panic that this world is in right now. And I want to start off with, I think, one of the most viral topics that needs to be talked about from both sides. Because right now we have a very angry population that is very concerned with trans shooters shooting up Catholic schools and just doing mass shootings across this country right now. And so I thought, who better to talk to than Blaire? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I wouldn't really trust most other trans public figures to talk about this in a way that's responsible, but which
I
is
don't want
unfortunate.
response. I just want you to just
Yeah.
be straight up blunt with it.
Yeah. So, I'm among the people that are highly concerned with shootings like that happening. The era I've grown up, I'm 31 years old. I've only seen mass shootings my entire life. And I've only seen it be a problem that just keeps invigorating and there's never any real solutions to it. And also, it's something that when it comes to the young people that are doing this, because it seems to be like late teenage, early 20-year-olds. And lately, a lot of them got caught up in things like gender ideology online, radicalized by Reddit boards and other things. And so it's unfortunate because, when I transitioned, it was way before any sort of political movement around trans. Well, I guess not way before. It was like a year or two before. But it's insane how different things were. None of the people that I've seen that are committing these acts, not that it changes anything about the act, obviously, but I have not seen any sort of like, oh yeah, this is clearly a trans person. I mean, it always looks like a very confused, tortured person who, finds other confused people on the internet, often who are trans, and then it becomes a social contagion that's actually been studied really well. And, when it comes to the recent one with the Catholic Church and the young children, it's also interesting. I'm a little ADHD, so I might jump around here. But another interesting point is that they never call it like an anti-Christian hate crime, anti-Catholic. And that also is like one of the main targets lately, it seems to be, is religious schools, which is so scary. So I think that should be recognized more. I think there's a reason, I'm a Christian, so I'm biased, but I think there's a reason why we don't really actively have language for like hatred of Christians, because I think it's encouraged in a lot of ways. And we can go down that rabbit hole too. But I mean, it's terrible. I did a video about the recent shooter, and what's pretty disturbing is he had CIA connections to his father, and that also seems to be a running theme. And this last shooter, to me, a lot of people don't want to be conspiratorial about events like this, which would definitely provide a great cover if anyone wanted to do something weird with something like this, as no one feels like they can question it. And there's ways to do it, I think, that are responsible and not. But it's just a little fishy to me that all the shooters lately, trans and not, are all have intelligence connections. I think we're kind of living in a situation where some of these, not all of these events, are not false flags. I'm not saying that no one passed away, because that clearly happened, but you can have something that's unfortunately orchestrated that, does actually take human lives as a collateral for whatever goal they're attaining. And it's also very interesting how, when it came to the manifesto of the shooter and the artwork that he left behind, it was virtually incoherent in the sense of, if you were on the left, you were able to pin it as some sort of far righter because he wrote about Brandon Herrera, or he said, F Trump on one of the things. If you are someone on the other side, you could have just as easily been like, oh, this is a radical leftist. You got caught up in gender ideology. Even if you were, a Jew, there was anti-Semitic stuff written. I saw that there was Islamophobic and pro-Islam things written. And so to me, it almost seems like something that someone or some sort of group, very sinister, would do. And this is just me speculating. I'm allowed to do that as an American. Kind of giving every group a person to blame in this situation. It was a bit convenient that there's all this information, and it just so happens that every group can be like, look, they're targeting us. And then you have people that, their only concern is that the shooter is getting called, he, and headlines on CNN, and is, people want to make it about whatever they want to make it about. And it's sad. I don't want to ramble too long. But.
No, you're good. My biggest thing is like, what's with the kids? Why do these mass shootings? That's the part that I cannot figure out is why this person is obviously disturbed and very angry at the world. But out of all the people you choose to take it out on, why kids? I don't understand that.
I mean, to get into the rationale of someone like that, I really don't know. But the only thing I can think of is to make it as devastating and traumatic as possible.
Yeah.
You know, there's no more tragic victim than that. So, and you know, if there was a message to get across through it, whether it was from him or someone operating with him, because I also think about how often it's like, I just wonder how many of these really are just these lone shooters, even if it's not like government involvement or, you know, intelligence agencies involved. Someone had to have helped or given advice or ran the play out for someone to really make it into a public place like that with a gun and just start doing what they do.
Back to what you were saying with the CIA connections. Do you think this could be some sort of like MK Ultra thing that's playing out before our eyes right now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think so much of what we are digesting in terms of media, news, mainstream, and, political news is its own version of MK Ultra, which I feel like for some people that sounds like a very like strange term, and the term itself sounds a little wacky. And it's like, what is MK Ultra? Is that like a technology?
Just
No,
brainwashing.
it's just brainwashing.
Yeah.
There's nothing science fiction about brainwashing. That's well documented. Things like hypnosis. There was I don't remember the person's name or the victim's name offhand, but back before MK Ultra was declassified, they actually had an airman who was under one of the top MK Ultra psychiatrists at the time, was like seeing him for help or something, with no previous crime history, snapped one day while under, and they found it to be hypnosis from this doctor. I think his name was Sidney Gottlieb. Probably pronouncing it wrong, but and this airman with no crime history went and snapped and killed a 3-year-old girl on the base. And they found him with no knowledge of what happened, shirtless in a bush with scratches all over him, and he'd had no idea what happened. And we do know he was being treated with hypnosis or under hypnosis.
Yeah.
And maybe that wasn't the thing that made him do that, but it's just very interesting how it's kind of a door people don't want to go down. Like, can you literally make someone do the unthinkable against their will, or fool them into thinking that is their will?
Well, a lot of these assassinations, when they catch the guy, they normally have no recollection of it. Even JFK, like when they grabbed that guy, he's like, I don't know, he didn't know where he was. I saw a documentary that showed video footage of him, and he's like, what happened? I don't know, like
Almost like they were in a daze, and that's what hypnosis does. Is it puts you in an alternate state of mind where you can be a different person, do different things. And I'm not saying it's the case for every shooter. I think that is a really unfortunate cost of having a Second Amendment freedom, as we do deal with gun violence here. But, for as many of them, especially these really weird, strange, younger lone wolf ones, to all have connections to intelligence agencies, it's like, I don't know. Like, look at the Trump shooter from last July that we know nothing about. We knew everything about, this recent shooter within, I felt like hours. I felt like hours went by. It's like, oh, there's a manifesto. Oh, there's artwork of him drawing himself as a demon.
Right.
And then this one back in last year of July with Trump, it gives the same sort of like physiognomy, like almost like this like lost, wasting away sort of young male who's not all there. Why was he in a BlackRock commercial? Why did this recent shooter have sponsored by BlackRock on his gun? I don't know. I just think those things matter. And I think too many people brush it off like, oh, that couldn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it could.
And it's so simple too. I mean, not saying that that's what happened, but when you take over a crime scene like that, like it's all classified now. It's like, who is to say I can go in there and double check that this guy actually wrote this stuff on these magazines, right? Like, how do I know?
You have to believe your government, while at the same time they're lying about all these other things.
That's the scariest thing to say, right? Just trust your government.
With this recent shooting, now I wouldn't say it's most, but there are some Republicans being baited into now saying, well, we can ban guns for trans people. Like, it's okay to chip away at the Second Amendment for this group. And it's also just very convenient that that's the group that statistically, Republicans probably would be the most likely to come around to. But that's exactly, Alex Jones talked about it on his show today and yesterday. And he actually shouted me out and used me as an example, which I was flattered by, said that clearly not all trans people are the problem. It's like you never want to take that away from someone like Blaire White. But, it's a very slippery slope when you take away Second Amendment rights for anybody. I don't even necessarily like that they do it for felons. And, as far as mental illness, I'm someone who does think gender dysphoria is a mental illness. However, it's not one, no matter how anyone feels about it, that comes with violent side effects. It's just not. It's just not like that.
Yeah.
But there are others that come with that we're not talking about that. So I just don't like seeing people baited into giving up their freedoms. And it's always done with a very specific formula: traumatic event, and then everyone's suggestibility skyrockets. And then you can start saying, well, how about we change this? And then they never change it in a way that benefits you.
And you never get those rights back.
You never get those rights back. And it doesn't just stop with one group. You know what I mean? That's who's to say that the country doesn't swing super hard left in the next 4 years? Seems very possible with how people are, angry lately. Let's just say believing in God is not a mental illness. You can't own guns.
Good point.
And if you wanted to play devil's advocate, and I would never obviously actually advocate for this as a Christian and a trans person, both of those fronts I want my rights, but, there's more argument that having a religious mindset, there is a lot of statistics about violence from that, extremists. All they have to do is paint normal religious people with that extremist,
Yeah.
So it's a slippery slope. You don't want to open that door, and it's disappointing to see people who would otherwise have concrete, support for the Second Amendment be like, well, maybe we can put a chip in it. Excuse me? Do you know anything about history? Do you know what happens when that happens in countries? So, but I don't think it'll actually happen, long story short. I mean, it's just not, constitutionally, it's not possible.
Yeah.
And I don't think that when it really came down to it, that would happen. And apparently it was the DOJ talking about doing it, which is Pam Bondi, which, I don't know. Pam Bondi is a wreck and a nightmare and a failure in her own right, lying about the Epstein files, the whole way that was handled. I'm sure that's been talked about ad nauseum on this podcast, but it's like, does anything good come out of her mouth? It's like, hey, we're going to put a chip in the Second Amendment, and hey, here's a bunch of lies about Jeffrey Epstein. It's like, what are you doing that's positive? And I'm sure she is, but she keeps making these just like really easy to not make blunders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Epstein, did you hear the latest on Stephen Hawking and his fetish?
Wait, was that true? He was like over there doing.
First off, how fucking creepy is that guy? Jesus, if this is all true, like,
Yeah, I mean, who knows how he really ended up like that? Like maybe his consciousness got trapped in like some robot or some shit.
well, I mean, I can't imagine what that would do to you. Your entire body, you cannot move a single muscle except one little muscle in his cheekbone. That's it. That's the only part of his body he could control. He couldn't even blink. So that's like that machine he would have. He was controlling it with the little muscle in his cheekbone to type the letters.
That's so scary.
Yeah. So you can imagine how. I mean, I think I would probably go fucking bitter, angry, cold.
But I have heard from like, I've heard that like with sex workers and prostitutes, a lot of their clientele are disabled people who can't like get laid otherwise. So.
Would make sense.
Yeah.
I wonder if his stuff couldn't work though.
No, I guess it's just the mental of abusing midgets.
Entertaining.
I feel bad
himself.
for midgets. Midgets get a bad rap.
They do.
Little people.
Midgets are cool.
They're very cool. One of my best friends in life is a little person. And it's crazy how everyone thinks like, everyone plays the victim card with being trans, you get so much hate, or being gay, you get so much hate, or being a white male. Now try being a little person. I've seen it firsthand. And they all talk about this. And maybe I wouldn't believe it if I didn't have a best friend. We'd be walking places and he would just have random people laughing, wanting to take pictures with him, patting his head, picking him up. People will come pick him up and try to run off with him.
Damn.
And this is a 30-year-old man. You know what I mean? So they're an underrepresented for real group. I'm like, wonder why no one's. But we don't want the Democrats to actually take that up as a cause because they ruin every group. So
they'll add another letter to their acronyms pretty quickly.
Right.
So back on this, I don't want to steer away from the topic at hand. just quite yet.
Yeah.
I think there's so much we could get into with that. But as far as like, all the other letters of the LGBTQ, um, I think for the most part, the consensus is most people don't care. We don't care what
Mm-hmm.
your sexual choice or preferences are in life. Be you, do you. And maybe there are a few people out there, but there's radicals in every topic. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Just somebody has an extreme view, or they're just trying to be funny or go viral. But for the majority of us, we don't fucking care. Um, how does that, being within the community now and part of the T, how does that have you noticed different blowback from the different, like the lesbians or the gays or the queer? Do you in encounter a lot of like resistance from these
Oh
other
yeah.
communities? And what's it like being within that? Because that's a lot of letters. That's a lot of different
Yeah.
groups that they're grouping all into one and
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, we're all together." Is it really like that?
No, I mean, at least not for me. Maybe it's all sunshine and rainbows for everyone else, but I'm definitely a pariah in that world. Definitely very hated. The trans community hates me the most. I would say with gays, it's probably like 50-50. A lot of gay men love me because a lot of gay men find themselves politically more on the right, especially
Mm.
these days. But trans people as a group really resent me, mostly because I'm against children transitioning. I think it's barbaric and disgusting and abusive and nightmarish. And they don't like that I'm about things like, mutual respect for society that we want them to give us, which is if you're biologically male, you don't play in women's sports. If you, have a certain sexual preference or whatever, maybe not put it in a children's book in a school. That goes for gay, trans, whatever. So I have a very middle of the road stance on all that stuff, which they perceive as being, radically to the right, and where that's just where normal people are. Normal people, like you just said, are like, I don't really care. Just don't. There's a line where it infringes on other people, and
Mhm.
that's with everything. So they seem to not be able to really find that line. But a lot of them also have come around to me throughout the years, and it is more of a mixed bag. And then in real life, we're talking about the internet versus real life. In real life, I've never had anything negative happen to me with like a person on the street or meeting supporters or even people who know who I am but don't like love me like that. It's never been anything weird. But online, I mean, and then I've filmed like videos. I went last year. Was it last year? Yeah, I think it was last year. I went to like a gay pride just to film videos and ask people political
I
questions,
saw that.
and they kicked me out and had security following me. So they definitely, I'm like Voldemort to them.
Mm.
I'm like the Voldemort of the trans community for sure. But I also, I don't really consider myself part of any communities. Like I don't want to sound like I don't know, I feel like people could perceive it as like trying to sound cool, like I'm some like lone wolf. No, I need community, but I need community with like friends and family who understand me,
Yeah.
people who really know me.
Mhm.
Whereas, it's the same way that even like my fans and my supporters are not necessarily my community because they don't know me. So
Mhm.
like just because I'm Republican, Republicans aren't my community.
Mhm.
Trans people are not. I'm just a person. So
It's a crazy mixed bag going on right now, and I feel like this is. I mean, when did the LGBTQ thing? When did that become like? When did that start? The LGBTQ, was that like 10 years ago? I want to say, or was it earlier than that? I know they've been around much longer, but that
yeah,
as far as like forming this group,
like a political movement. Yeah.
yeah. And then who backs that? Like who? Where are they getting their donations and their money from? Do you have any clue?
Yeah, I do. So you're right that there's the LGBT movement,
Mm-hmm.
which has now become a political movement, a fundraising, tool for the left and the right
Mm-hmm.
for, forming public policy positions and whatever. But obviously, gay people and even trans people go back probably as long as you could think to get it on with another guy as a guy or whatever. But so those two things are really different because, you know, I don't think that anyone really knows for sure why someone is like gay or trans, but I know that I was a naturally extremely feminine person by like 3-4 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and people would mistake me for a little girl when I was a little kid, just on my mannerisms, my voice, etc. So there's something innate in that that separates it from joining a political cohort,
Right.
which is they all seem to do. I guess people really do seek that community, and so they get caught up in that. That started. it really started getting radicalized, I would say, after gay marriage had been won.
Mm.
So that was, I believe, 2013 that gay marriage was passed. And suddenly, all of these, billions of dollars that were given to organizations like GLAAD, people in entertainment to push certain things, all of that still was there, and they moved on to new issues. So now it's fundraising about trans issues.
Mm.
Now we have to start talking about trans kids. And you can see the problem in that, because that's the slippery slope fallacy in and of itself. It's the proof that the people who were like, if we legalize gay marriage, now it's going to be all of this stuff, they were right. They were right. And that's because money had to keep flowing.
Mm-hmm.
And the politicization of it is also just too juicy. I mean, trans has been used as a political tool for the last 3 elections, from both sides. So it's just unfortunate, because the party that swooped up this whole issue of LGBT have handled it just like they've handled every other minority, which has been becoming a complete toxic leech on that community.
Makes you look bad as a
Right.
community.
Yes, you're politicizing something that is not political.
Mm.
Sexuality is not political. Having gender dysphoria is not political. These are all features of, we can have an opinion, birth, nature versus nurture, but it's not a political thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you make it that, people start getting both dehumanized and aggrandized,
Mm.
because you'll have a leftist saying, the way leftists will talk about trans people is like they're gods, you know what I mean, which is very satanic. And then the way that some people on the right will talk about them is if they're like complete pariahs, cannot exist in society. So, as with most things, the truth is somewhere in the middle, which is they're human beings capable of good and evil, just like everyone else.
Right.
And, all of a sudden, when it became this political thing, I noticed, and this goes back to when I first started my channel, this was the main reason, because suddenly I saw that I was being pressured to take certain stances on things that I was against. And most people were just falling into it. Like, suddenly the talk is trans kids. You have to be okay with kids going on hormones. And I'm thinking, no, that sounds really, really consequential in a bad way. And especially knowing myself what that is and that medical process, I can't even imagine doing that to a kid, or a kid consenting to it, or whatever. So I just never have compromised. It's really been this politicization of trans that has taken the movement so far away from who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And my values are antithetical towards almost all of theirs.
It's got to be awful for you too to have this one political party that is so vocal and so angry and violent, stoking the flames and
So
trying
annoying.
to get everybody. It's got to suck that they're the ones that are laying claim to your
Yeah.
your tribe. Like,
It's annoying. And they've also completely destroyed not only what trans means by making it a political thing, but they've destroyed the medical and neurological realities of it that were once being studied and people were taking into account when going to get permission to transition, not just getting it, which is also the new thing. And so, yeah, people now, especially because people on the right, a lot of them I feel like didn't even hear about trans until like 2016 maybe. And some people, like up to 2020, it wasn't a thing until like the pandemic. So their first introduction is that it's a political movement. And when it comes to a political movement, you can be as vicious as you want to be, in my opinion. I mean, politics, like, it's about winning an idea.
Yeah.
But what gets lost is there are people too behind it, for which I didn't consent to all this,
Yeah.
I've just tried to do my part and combat what I feel like are the things causing it. Like, so for me, when it comes to resentment that people have towards trans people because of all this stuff, whether it be the shooting, the politicization of it, how it's been handled in media, especially shoehorning trans characters into stuff. People get fatigued with it naturally. I do too. I just try to, advocate for what I believe in. So it's like, I'm never going to compromise on the trans kid thing, because I didn't have to have the data that's now out to know. I was before the data. I was like, that is wrong.
Yeah.
That's harmful.
So what are you, 30 years old?
31.
31? Okay, so 10 years younger than me. So you kind of grew up in an age where this was more and more out there. You would see music videos and see it in movies and TV shows, whereas when I was a kid, you never saw this. It was very rare. I think the closest thing I saw to this as a kid was like Dennis Rodman when he'd show up in a dress,
Yeah.
or something like that. So like you growing up in this kind of like this modern world where you're seeing all these different things, and then piggybacking on the MK Ultra thing, where you think that there could have been some forms of mass hypnosis that have been sent out. Do you remember anything that you would kind of notice, like as growing up in high school, maybe on your social media platforms that you or groups that you were a part of? Did you ever notice anything that like that's fishy? That's weird. Why would they put that there? I've always been an active guy, training, pushing myself. But once I learned how caffeine forces your body into that fight or flight mode, I realized it was wrecking my recovery. I'd get the boost, but I couldn't really rest. That's when I came across methylene blue. It gives me clean energy, sharper focus, and I could still recover. Honestly, it changed everything for me in the gym, in business, and in life. Then I discovered alpha lipoic acid. On its own, it's a strong nootropic, boosting choline, which drives brain and body performance. But when you combine it with methylene blue, it's on another level. That's why I worked with the partner to create Magic Bullet, methylene blue plus ALA. For me, methylene blue was powerful on its own, but with ALA, it's the only way I do it now. Right now at bluevitality.com, you can pick up a full bottle of Magic Bullet for just $39.95. Use my promo code SJNCO to get 20% off the regular price. If you're serious about your training, your focus, or your recovery, this is the way to go.
Um,
Anything that might have like led you to go
you
down
know,
this route?
trans was actually not really a thing that I knew about until I was about 18 or 19.
Mm-hmm.
My perception of it was always that there's people who are gay, and then some of those people like dress up in certain clothes, like drag queens, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I never knew there was like a medical thing necessarily. But I do know that all of us have been under assault by mass media that's been just degrading our consciousness progressively over time. I think it's been a really long scale thing. I'm completely open to the idea that someone, when I was really young, planted something in my head that I can't remember or whatever, because I don't know how much I want to go. Yeah, I mean, I did grow up in a family that I'm learning now as an adult, and I had no idea until recently, was also involved with a lot of secretive things in the country. And I was also in the GATE program in school, which a lot of people are realizing now there was MK Ultra taking place there.
Explain the GATE program.
So it was the Gifted and Talented Education program. And some kids across the country had a normal experience with it, where it was like the kids with high IQs, and they had a special class that they'd go to once a week or after school, where they worked on more difficult work and worked towards maybe a greater high school career or something.
Right.
And then there's a large subset of people who remember things that were very different. And I'm among those people. And what they remember are things like psychic testing, ESP testing, psychic cards, frequency hearings with headphones, guided hypnosis, blacked out windows. So there's a forming community right now of people who are like, that's really weird.
This was all part of the GATE program.
Yeah, and it was a CIA program, and probably other agencies too, but it was CIA. And so people that didn't work at the school actually came and administered it or did it, ran it. And
And that was in California?
but it's nationwide.
Okay.
Although I believe it's shut down now, but they always change the name for things, so I'm sure there's still a program like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. And my family was involved in all of that. So who knows?
Well, that sounds fishy.
Yeah.
So was this like an after school program or like a weekend program or?
It was a situation where from what I remember, it was like every Monday for an hour after school. I went there. So it was like an after school program.
And so all those hypnosis, those frequency things, you had to go through all of that?
Yeah, and there's these things called Zener cards. If you look them up, they're pretty famous. But we'd have to guess what's on the back of a card. There'd be like symbols like a star, a circle, a square, a triangle. And the people doing the test would sit there and be like, okay, so what's behind this card? And I remember thinking, like, this is very unintellectual. Like, is this being graded? How would I ever know what's behind this card? Because that's impossible. And I remember like arguing with them, like, I don't like this one, I don't like this test. And so there's really no reason why a public school would be administering psychic testing until you find out that there's been probably billions of dollars spent on psychic programs by the CIA. So this was the kid version.
Right.
So I'm not saying I'm like a psychic or like anything like that, but I was definitely tested for it.
Wow.
And I was kept in G.A.T.E for 3 years. So maybe I performed somewhat okay, but I don't have a job in it. So
Yeah.
I don't think I got picked. It was basically intelligence funneling and military funneling. So
So they would recruit students that were doing this to go work for them after they graduated?
basically, and it makes sense if you think about how complicated, military and all the agencies are. It's like some of these pipelines start from child age. So some of these are like, scouting talented kids in whatever, talent or ability might be useful for the government. It might be maybe you need to go to the Air Force, or maybe you need to go to the psychic division we have. We don't really talk about until we declassify it decades later. Or maybe you're, there's a lot of government jobs, but this was a funnel system for it, basically.
That's nuts. I've
Yeah.
never heard of that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And it could have had some effect. Who knows? I mean, if they're putting these things in you're listening to these different frequencies and stuff. I don't know what that shit does. Obviously, somebody on their side understands what it does.
Yeah.
But
So I'm
they're
very
just
anti-government, obviously.
Oh, I don't blame you. I
Yeah.
mean, they're experimenting on our kids.
Yeah.
And in the name of, oh, this is going to be good for your kid, they're going to, get a higher education and have better opportunities. So back to the hormone stuff. Oh, you transitioned after college or during college?
At 20, so yeah, I was during.
During college. Well, that must have been hard to do it during college, by the way. Was that weird for like your friends
No.
or normal?
No, not at all, actually. Like, when I see other people's stories or watch how it goes for other people, I see a lot of like chaos and it not really working out and family things happening. And for me, it actually just seemed like a really easy thing. Everyone around me kind of got it. No one was like shocked by it. Everyone was like, oh, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
So it happened really quick. And I actually started my YouTube channel a month after I started. So I really lived as, Blaire. I've been like a public figure the entire time too, which is a really like weird experience.
So as far as transitioning, what kind of hormone blockers or what did they have you on as far as like medications?
Yeah, so there's different regimens, but I'm just on a testosterone blocker and estrogen. It's just flipping, relatively easy. There's other things you can take, but I don't really feel like it. And then, surgery was a part of it, but that was years ago too. So it's funny because I'm at the point where I actually don't think about it so much. Like I forget actually.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just kind of important too. And the reason I'm asking.
And you can ask whatever. I just don't typically, it's hard to remember sometimes.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But the reason I'm asking is because I'm curious because a lot of these, back to the kids shooting up schools, these mass shooters, I don't know what that stuff's doing to them. Like,
Yeah.
like
Messing with your hormones is no joke, no matter what age.
What did you notice, like mentally, cognitively, neurologically? What kind of effect did this have on you by blocking your testosterone and what was it? The other one, upping your estrogen?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was, I guess, in hindsight, it was really immediate. The biggest changes before any physical ones are like your personality a little bit, the way you start thinking about things,
Can you
your
explain?
mindset. The best way to describe it is everything just starts getting more feminine in your mentality. Like my emotional intelligence, I feel like went up, and then I'm not saying my intellectual intelligence went down because it didn't, but it was just like I looked at things with different eyes. Like I looked at things like how it would affect people more. You can really just see it as like I viewed sex differently. Like I didn't view sex as anything for just like pleasure. Now I wanted like love and a relationship. So those are, really big things. It changes your worldview in a lot of ways and the way you interact with the world, which is also why I don't, when it comes to these shooters, my experience is it made me like way softer as a person. Not that it would make me more rageful or want to go hurt somebody. So I'm thinking that even though it is no joke to change your hormones, and there are men on testosterone and women during menopause that take it, and all of them will tell you a lot of things change. So it's a thing. But I think the SSRIs might be a way bigger deal.
I was going to ask you about that.
But then the thing about drugs is the interaction. So I don't know how an SSRI would interact with, the hormones that I take. And so that's another really big problem with the way that trans is handled medically and legally, is that there's an over medicalization of our society in general.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the excesses when you see kids starting to change their hormonal makeup, but it's a thing that really affects us. And so it's nothing for a kid to be on Ritalin by the time he's 10. It's nothing for them to be on Adderall, which I cannot imagine being a little kid on Adderall, how that would destroy your life. Like, wow. So I think it's potentially those interactions, but I also don't know for sure.
Yeah. Mass experiments that they're doing with kids, and like the drag shows with kids, like that one pisses me off. I'm like it's okay, be you, do you, but why are they bringing kids to these shows?
It's a complete hedonistic, like, I don't know, it gives like a movie. It's like, what's Idiocracy, the movie Idiocracy. It just gives like, if it was a woman in the same getup that this drag queen is wearing, you would be calling Child Protective Services. But because it's a drag queen, and because, again, that politicization that turns, LGBT people into complete social outcasts, the other way it works is it makes them into like gods, little deities. And the way people will worship a gay man if he puts on a pair of eyelashes and a wig and starts dancing. It's like, if this was a man who wasn't dressed up like that, you'd be disturbed. And if it was a woman who dressed up like that, so why is it that when it's a drag queen, it's okay?
Yeah.
It is like messed up. I think that especially the schools that would do it and the public libraries and stuff like that, as far as you asked earlier about like who's funding all the LGBT stuff, from what I can see, if you look at all of the sponsors at all the Pride Fest, because they show them, it's only the hugest corporations that are all owned by things like BlackRock.
Yeah.
So there is a funnel to manipulate society. And there's this balance that we all have to, struggle to walk the tight line of like, how much can we accept that there are individuals and there are collectives, and how much, blame should a collective get for something? And for me, the reason why I have such an issue with the LGBT community now, not even just politically, but like spiritually, is that they compromise. Maybe they never had the morals, I don't know, but a lot of them really compromise on things that are appropriate versus not.
Yeah.
And a lot of them live very childless lives. So, obviously gay people can't procreate naturally, and then trans people, most of them never have kids.
That's a good point.
So when you don't have kids around, perhaps you lose sight about what's appropriate to be around a kid and not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of them live lives where they're running from all their traumas from childhood, so they're partying, they're very party lifestyle in that community. And a lot of them have no knowledge about what's okay and what's not.
I'm curious, do you get a lot of trans people that are right-leaning like yourself that reach out to you?
Yeah, but it's mostly in secret or
That's what I was gonna.
in person if
I
they bump into
figured
me.
they don't want to get ostracized from the community.
Yeah.
And
Even some of the famous ones that are leftists and famous for it. You know what I mean?
Really?
Because there are a lot of little commentators and celebrities that are on red carpet saying certain things, and I've met almost all of those people. Especially when you become someone in that community, it gets really small. So I've been around all of them, and a lot of them will be like, oh my God, you're right, thank you. And I'm like, well, why are you then going on CNN and saying that kids need to have hormone shots at 13? And that sort of like hypocrisy and double life stuff, I don't like that.
what would you say to like young kids out there that are contemplating transitioning? What would you, if you could like say one thing to them, like as a warning or like encouragement, what would you say to them, especially with everything you're seeing now?
I would say don't do it. Don't transition. And that is, in my opinion, very sound, not just medical advice, but psychological advice, because when you look at the history of how transsexualism, which is what it used to be handled by the books, was this is something that often can be present in kids, but it's about if it persists into adulthood. That was the whole thing. This is about something that just never leaves you no matter what you try, and it's something that is a last resort treatment. It's never the first. And so for it to get flipped on its head and treated as the first, that's a problem. So I would say wait until you're an adult. and see where you're at and see where you're headed, because everything changes when you're an adult. And, you know, don't get caught up in the politics of all of it, because it's very fruitless. And I'm saying that as a political commentator, but I mean the expectation that you have to be political because you're trans is BS. The expectation that you have to have a certain set of opinions, and that's the bane of my existence, is people just can't wrap their head around me not being a communist.
Yeah.
I don't really understand that. And also, this is controversial, but assess if it's trans or if it's something else traumatic in your life, because it was also very much talked about back in the day that children of sexual molestation as children, did I say that right? Victims of child molestation experience gender dysphoria. So trans people are not the only people that experience this condition, which is called gender dysphoria, which is an uncomfortability with your gender. It happens when people are harmed in that way often, and it can fade, and especially with therapy, if that's the situation. But then you get in a situation where a lot of people don't remember what happened to them in their childhood. That part of trauma is that you forget it because your brain protects you, which is a beautiful thing. But you have to really look deep as to why you're feeling these things. And then gay people also experience gender dysphoria. People don't talk about that. You know, there's a lot of gay men who are naturally feminine, and they struggle with that. And, you know, tomboys who struggle with that. And that manifests as this condition, which, so when it's not a trans exclusive condition, but it's synonymous with it, that leads to problems where you're now diagnosing people with things that there are some other avenues to look at first.
Yeah.
You know, because the abuse victim one really makes me sad. Like, to think that there would be a child who has not been given enough time to really assess the story of their life up until this point, and be put on a drug that sterilizes them.
Yeah.
And just the whole consenting to never have kids for the rest of your life as a kid.
Right.
It's these sort of like nonsensical disasters that anyone with two eyes could see coming that I really struggled for a long time. Like, why am I the only one out here in this community like saying this is crazy, saying this is wrong? But I kind of come to grips with it because someone had to like do it. And I'm not a hero by any means, and it's a whole mess with the trans stuff, so I haven't saved anything, but you know, it's only going to get better with people restoring some common sense on this stuff.
Yeah.
So I try to.
Somebody like you has to come up, and you got to stand up there and stick up for the ones that don't have a voice.
Yeah.
Do you see that as something that's kind of like life is pushing you towards?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how would you do it?
Well, it's definitely always been my personality type to be super outspoken. So everything as far as my career ended up really organic. And it makes perfect sense why I'm here when I look at my life. But yeah, it has felt for a long time, and still does, as more of like a duty than anything, and more of like a, you know, that comes with like baggage of like, sometimes I don't want to make a video addressing a certain thing that I've addressed so many times, but the world needs it and people need to hear it. I see myself as more so a voice for people who are hyper individuals. I did a tour last year of America and Toronto, Canada. It was a speaking tour and it was a podcast tour. So I met in that time just thousands of fans and meet and greets and all this stuff. And every person that worked at all the venues that my shows were at, they're like, we've never seen a more diverse group of people. Like in the truest sense, like you have like a little Asian family that looks like they're too old to be walking up, and then like a gay kid with purple hair, and then like a black man, and then like a regular like Christian looking straight couple, and then like a lesbian couple. So I think that when I look at who I really speak to, it's people who don't easily fit in boxes, because I don't, obviously. You know, I'm the only trans person on the right in the way that I am, and the only trans person in that community on the right as well. So I think just people who don't get neatly wrapped up in a box with a bow, that's usually the person who resonates with me, which is good because we need more individuals. Too many people think collectively all the time. Too many people's pronoun is we, which is like, you know, everyone's speaking for their group all the time. Like, this is what we believe in. It's like, speak for yourself sometimes, because when you're on the end as the individual, I see trans people saying we believe in all these things, and I'm like, no, not you do. Speak for you.
Yeah. I've seen some of those podcasts. They put you in one of the ones you posted with there's the I think it was a trans black woman and the guy with the beard.
Yeah.
And you guys got into it. Can you speak on that a little bit?
That was a fever dream.
Oh my God, that was crazy. You could
Sometimes
just
I'm
see
not.
the anger in their eyes.
They hate me.
They hate you.
They hate me, and I don't get it. I really don't. I know I probably sound like you understand when people hate you. I understand logically that I say things people disagree with, but other people say things I disagree with, and I don't have this like weird blind hate. Even for like really like inflammatory figures, I'm like, it is what it is. And it sounds, again, I know my heart, so anyone saying this is like a cocky thing, it's not. The truth like really does hurt. So when you're speaking the truth, people are hurt like you hurt them and broke their heart.
Right.
So it kind of felt like I was talking to like a bunch of exes that like wanted to get back with me, because they all knew who I was and they all jumped on and attacked me. I was like, I feel like I'm surrounded by ex-boyfriends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you,
I get in a lot of situations like that. I feel like that's where people like to put me when they book me for things.
well, you keep your composure very well. So
I try.
Yeah, it's a great compliment, especially they put you in a room where you're surrounded by these people and you're having to defend attacks from each one sitting on another stool. And I thought you kept your composure very excellently,
Thank you.
admirably. Do you consider to receive more negativity like from conservatives that, like you said, you're a Christian, so I'm sure you're getting some blowback from Christians on the conservative side that think that those two don't go together, trans and Christianity. Do you feel like you receive more negativity from that side or from the trans community itself that doesn't like that you're conservative?
It's kind of hard to quantify because I am that sort of like, I'm not a middle road person with my opinions, but because of all the things going on with me, I'm at the intersection of a lot of things. So I definitely get hate from the right and the left. I think it's more of like a quality versus quantity thing where like there's no hate like leftist hate in the sense of like it's coming with a death threat. It's coming with a call from the FBI that there's a threat. It's coming with violence. It's coming with, whereas, it's mostly just like smack talking people on the right, which is just part of being online anyways. But yeah, I definitely have, I would say most Christians that follow me, all of them that follow me are delighted that I'm a Christian now. And so that's been positive. But of course, there's people from that faith that have a problem with that. But that's the thing, is like I have a relationship with God, not them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. So I don't actually put any stock into people who criticize my religion or my spirituality. Like nothing comes close to my relationship with God. So any person's opinion on that, I mean, if Christianity is for, Ted Bundy on death row when he gets his stuff together, or for, this man with two separate families and neither one of them know, because I, present myself a certain way, I can't be Christian. I mean, there's not logically not even the same level of scripture backing up that you should have that opinion there is for things like gay. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure there was really nothing like me around that time. So
Yeah. Well, I don't think so. Maybe. I
well,
don't
they
know.
were called the eunuchs back then.
The eunuchs?
Yeah, which there's actually scripture of Jesus saying you should praise the eunuch. So I could have that debate with anyone, but I also don't really need to, because the thing about, for me, Christianity, which is so beautiful, is that it's about your soul individual relationship with God. It's not about even going to church. You know what I mean? When it comes to Jesus, just as an archetype, he was an outcast character. He wasn't someone who had so much community around him. He has his
Right.
devoted followers, but he wasn't someone that needed the approval of everyone. That's why he ended up getting crucified.
Yeah.
So that whole collective, like, and then I look at like, where exactly is this perfect representation of Christianity for me to feel like I need
Right.
to behave like? Because one of the things is I've been watching this reality show called Raising Amish or Breaking Amish, which is so fascinating. And, these people are escaping this, Christian, very oppressive, like you can't drive, you can't talk on the phone, any of that stuff, which everyone agrees is extreme. But, they're using the Bible to justify it, and they're using Christianity falsely. So I'm like, if even the most Christian people, I can point out their flaws, and you can point out
Yeah.
the trans flaw, but like, that's the point, is we're all flawed.
Right. I saw a post the other day or like a week ago, and it was a porn star. So a split picture. On one side, there's a porn star who makes her living off of doing porno. On the other side was a Christian or self-proclaimed Christian that consumes the porn.
Subscribe
And
to her OnlyFans.
yeah, and it says who's worse? Who's a bigger sinner in God's eyes?
Right.
The woman that's doing this to make a living for her and her family and her kids, or the guy that's claiming to be a Christian but he's sitting there jacking off to her fucking content.
Right.
Who's
And
worse in God's eyes?
right. And the beauty of Christianity, in my opinion, is that it's actually not for people to make that like sort of like a judgment on either one of them,
Yeah.
because you really never even ever know anyone's life. And I've met a lot of people who live comparatively to me just like the most insane hedonistic lifestyles, people who do all sorts of stuff I've never dreamed of doing. And so everyone answers to, their God at the end. So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
How is your relationship with God? First off, when did you become a Christian, and then how's your relationship grown with God?
So I was born, I was baptized Catholic growing up, but it was something that really fell off until I would say about 29, 30, because there were just so many answers that I felt like people were never able to give me. Even as a kid, I remember being in Sunday school saying, well, the Bible says this, but over here it says this, and that seems contradictory. I don't really understand, or what's really going on. And as a lot of people talk about this experience, you don't really get answers. You just have faith or just believe it. And part of that is probably because not every church has competent church leaders that really know how to answer it. But for me, it became like a thing where I needed to understand it intellectually, which I sort of just never thought much about as a teenager or even like my early 20s. And then I had a lot of things happen in my personal life. I had a lot of things happen with my family. And I kind of hit a breaking point where I reached out to God in a way that I never had before. And I asked for not proof like I'm testing God, but like, let me feel it. Let me see it. You know how my brain works. If you're my creator, you know how my brain works. Give me what I need to understand this in the way that I can go forward. And if you do that, I'm yours. And a really profound experience happened that I'm probably not going to get into detail on here very much, but it was exactly what I needed to have an intellectual understanding of God and spirituality and the spiritual reality that I live in. It was just the perfect package of like, this is exactly what you would need to know it and to see me. And that was what did it. And from there, I sort of boomeranged all the way back to my childhood, where I was now like looking into Jesus and looking into God in the Bible. And I've been doing that for now, I guess it's almost 3 years. And it changed my life. It changed my worldview. I mean, once you step into, I don't know your faith or anything, but for me, once I stepped into the logical understanding that we're in a spiritual reality and that you really do have a one-way call to God when you want to, how do you not? Everything changes.
Yeah. You go to church on Sundays?
No, I don't.
No?
No,
Just from home?
it's very personal for me. It's very like, I study the Bible, I read the Bible, I communicate with God, I am on this process of learning all of it. And
Is there a reason you stay away from church, though?
I just haven't felt the calling or the need to make a community sort of aspect about it. I would be willing to do it if the right church came along or if I got an invite to something that looked great. So I'm very much not against it. It just hasn't been a necessary part of my journey.
Yeah.
But I see why some people, that's very necessary for them. And I respect it.
Yeah. For me, like, I don't go all the time. Like, and I'm not devout. I'm not crazy I don't go crazy hard on anything in life. Like, I try to stay open-minded. I'm open to a lot of different ideas of what it might be, whether it's a single God or multiple gods, or the universe is alive, or whatever, different planes of reality.
Yeah.
So, but I do notice when I'm at church, you feel it, right? So I think it's interesting to get it from another perspective, right? Because this is somebody who's devoted his entire life and education to learning on how I can uh, explain this scripture to these people from my point of view. And so he's taking everything he's ever learned about the Bible and God and Jesus Christ and all this stuff, and he's trying to communicate it to you to get it through your heads, and so you can take this with you for the rest of the week. And so I find it fascinating. It's like I'll be sitting in church and you'll like get the chills because the way he sees a certain thing is like I could have read that 10 times and not saw it that way, but he's using all of everything he's learned over the years, and like, so they're like experts in explaining what God's trying to relay to you. And I'll prove it. It'll reference to other parts in the Bible where he's saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of like how they're able to kind of streamline the message that God's trying to give you. And I do find it interesting that, they say that God's using this person. So listen to this person, right? You call them father for a reason, right? So I find it interesting. I definitely feel it on the inside, though.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's funny you brought up that thing where you reached out to God to ask God to show you a sign. I did the same thing. I asked God to show me a sign. I said, just show me a sign that you're here or you're real. And I shit you not, like 3 days later, I used to go on these hikes. I'm working long hours. If I had like an hour break, I would go for a walk on this trail. And there's this one spot that I go that's very private. Nobody's ever out there. Very rare you run into anybody out there. And I'm coming down the path, and there's this older guy, looked Jewish, right? And he's got like the binoculars or whatever, and he's watching the birds. And so normally I wouldn't say anything. I would just keep my head down, my earbuds in, and just walk past. But it's very rare seeing anybody out there. So I stopped and I said, how's it going? You seeing a lot of birds or whatever? I'm not a bird watcher. I don't know. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I see a few. I said, well, that's cool. Good luck with that. And he's like, yep, just trying to keep up with them. And that's the last thing he said. And so I kind of like it didn't click right away, but I walked down the path, went around the corner, and I stopped, and I was like, and the guy was just interesting looking enough. It's like something was a little bit distinct about him, but not overpower. It was like very, I don't know what's the word to explain it, but I just got a weird tick. So I turned around and I doubled back to go see if he was still there and to like engage in conversation a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And he was gone. And there's no way this old guy could have disappeared that quickly. Like I move fast on the trails, and this guy's definitely not as fast as me. And he was gone.
Mm.
And so in my mind, that was God. And so him breaking like small little conversation and saying, I'm just trying to keep up with them, is like a reference to God just trying to keep up with us. Like,
Well, that makes sense to me, because what I've sort of figured out about talking to God and knowing when he sends a sign or replies or communicate, it's not about getting some big sort of like large event or like blast of information. It's about like hearing the faint, like hearing the signals that are just following the nudge. Like, maybe I should start a conversation with this person. Like, that's a nudge,
yeah.
right? You could tell it came from somewhere external, not from within you, because you wouldn't have normally done that.
Yeah.
And I felt things like that too. Like,
And it's just a feeling too. It's like something was weird about that encounter.
yeah,
And I needed to prove it to myself. So I doubled back as fast as I could to see if he was there, and he'd gone.
yeah,
Like, that's the weirdest part of all of it. Where'd he go? Unless he like just dropped his shit and sprinted out of there,
right.
I would have caught him, and he
Right.
was gone. And this is guy, he wasn't even in like hiking clothes,
Mm-hmm.
He's like he looked like a bird watcher that got lost or something, you know what I mean? But it's just, I find it interesting what he said, because how many people with everything, all this violence and mass shootings and chaos that we encounter every day in this world, everybody's saying, where's God? Why doesn't God stop this? Right? Well, what if that was his answer? I'm just trying to keep up with you. Like,
Right.
you can't expect me to solve everything. I created this world for you. It's not my job to dictate what you're going to be allowed to do within it.
He gave us free will.
Yeah.
He gave us free will. I believe he gave the angels free will. I believe he gave the animals free will. Everyone has free will.
Yeah.
And again, people do, I see it all the time, they try to poke whatever they think is a hole in God or theology or the Bible, whatever, who have never read it and who have never had sort of communication with God like some people have, and it's not, no one's better than anyone, but you know it when it happens.
Yeah.
And again, I've learned it's about quieting the noise and hearing the faint signal, hearing the like, okay, that's what that was. And so I think the trying to keep up with humans thing is really real because we live such a fast paced, like our attention is just crazy. There's so much noise all the time, literally. It's like, I don't know. I feel like maybe in my childhood I've been like, God, please talk to me. And it just said it nonchalantly and then went back to playing metal music and my computer, playing video games. It's like, I'm not really centering myself enough to have a real conversation with God here.
Yeah.
So, but I found that when you really reach out and you really surrender to it, my experience is that God answers your call. And my experience was a profoundly 110% supernatural experience that was exactly what I needed to be like, okay, I get it. You're there. You're there. And, I've sort of done things like the hard way of like how you mentioned, like a benefit of church is you can have someone streamlining the information in the Bible and you can have someone explaining to you what certain things mean. I guess I just like doing everything the hard way because I kind of do that like all myself. I'm like researching like, why was this referenced over here and why was it sort of like this? And it's fascinating because you start to be able to actually link it to a lot of prehistory stuff and you link it to actual other tangible, methods of study that you're like, oh my God, so you're telling me, okay, so there's all this evidence of a global flood that they always said wasn't there, but it is.
We
And you
have
start
proof
learning.
now.
Yeah. And then there's just so much they've censored about Jesus's life. They've scattered information about Jesus, And so I guess I also just get worried about like I don't ever want to go anywhere where I'm fed a narrative that isn't true. Because I also know that the Bible has, unfortunately, people don't like to believe it, but it's been manipulated as well. And there's been, things taken out, things put in, things banned. Different countries have different canonical versions of the Bible. So for me, it's been about just praying for the discernment to know when something is God and when it's not, basically.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you believe in demons?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see the VMA awards?
I didn't because I don't watch demonic shit.
I didn't watch it, but I saw the memes and the post on it. And again, it's like all demonic
It's
dresses,
rituals.
performances. Like
It's
it looks like they
rituals.
got these demon slaves are their backup dancers. And like, what are they feeding? What are they feeding us? What are they, or our kids?
Well, they're doing rituals right in front of you.
Is that what
And
that is?
yeah, and a lot of people. Okay, so my mom's side of the family were the ones who baptized me Catholic. My dad's side of the family were the opposite of Catholic.
Okay.
They had a few different words that described their belief systems, but to name a few, they were Rosicrucians, and they did practice witchcraft on my dad's side. I grew up in a cult on that side.
Whoa.
And so I have, unfortunately, through firsthand experience and through research now, I have a pretty good idea of like when the occult is happening, like when the occult is doing something. So you know when something's a ritual, when it's not, and you kind of learn what a ritual actually is and how it's not always this like they don't have to say Hail Satan at the start of it, but if the stage is shaped a certain way and there's certain words being said and there's certain circumstances happening, it can be a magic ritual. And a lot of people don't believe in that. And a lot of even Christians don't believe in that, but like your Bible talks about magic. So you probably should.
Yeah.
It says not to do it, but it doesn't say it's not real. And I've seen firsthand that even if certain people do have beliefs about like black magic and white magic and all these things, and you can see firsthand sometimes when you're born into certain families that like, oh, people believe in that and they do that. I'm estranged from all of them, but yeah.
So, but you said you grew up with them. But you live with your mom, but did you would
I
go
live with
visit
my
them?
mom and my dad.
Uh-huh.
And my dad was more of again, they were Rosicrucians and they were all also Freemasons. So a lot of occult stuff going on. My dad was more so I think maybe it's a generational thing that like that sort of stuff has kind of phased out over time. Like all of our great grandpas were doing weird stuff, and then our grandpas maybe a little less, and whatever. My dad was more of like he'll show up for certain things culturally. So like I was taken to Rosicrucian gatherings where my dad also felt like the outsider, where I'd be like, "Why are we here? What are they doing?"
Hmm.
And he'd be like, "It's our family's thing." You know, the same way that some people will go to church just because their family does.
Right.
So my dad wasn't like a true believer. My grandparents were, my grandmother namely,
Hmm.
and then other family on that side. So, what was the question? Yeah, my dad was.
No, I was just curious the dynamic. So, were your parents married the whole
Yeah.
time?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so you grew up with both of them. They still married?
No, my dad passed away when I was 19.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know that.
Oh, it's fine.
And how was y'all's relationship? Like him and you and him?
It was very, very, I guess, just bad. I was looking for a more artful word for that, but yeah, it was bad. We fought a lot. We saw the world differently a lot. Also, a lot of the stuff kind of that I was just touching on, like the more of the spiritual belief side on that family, caused a lot of trauma in him, a lot of trauma in me. And I definitely grouped him in with them in my mind, even though he wasn't really as much of a true believer, like I said.
Yeah.
So, like some of the more traumatizing things I saw and went through on that side, I grouped him in with them. And in fairness, he did transport me to certain things in terms of like he's driving me to things that ended up being traumatizing, to see events, rituals, etc. So yeah, it's I wasn't ever able to really truly kind of get his side until now. Even though he's been passed away, I can kind of see things more clearly. Like he was actually a victim of that as well, just like I was.
Do you think this demonic, I don't know what you'd call it, movement that's going on right now, do you think there's an end game to what they're doing?
Yeah, it's all laid out. I mean, people, if you call it the New World Order, you know, if you call it the WEF's 10-year plan, whatever you want to call it, like to think that we're like on this planet where things aren't set up in terms of a plan, you know, there definitely is. And if you look into it, the deeper you look on why certain things are happening in the world, you find that the occult really does run the world. There's a reason why George Washington, our first president, was a Freemason. And although secret societies have just consolidated power behind the scenes, you look up things like the Illuminati and they think it's like a club that makes music artists do certain things. No, it's actually 13 bloodlines that are all supposedly related to fallen angels. And they have their occult beliefs and they're also rich. It's the Rockefellers, it's the, you know, Rothschilds, the Astors, the Russells, all those people.
So the ones that are pulling all these strings, you think they're trying to introduce this demonic idealism in kids, and this is kind of like what we're seeing. Like, did you see that Ukrainian woman that got stabbed to death on a bus by that black
Yeah.
guy over nothing?
That was so
Over nothing. She looks like she just got off of work and she's sitting there with her back turned.
so disgusting. And whenever stuff like that comes out, I'm always thinking like, and now it's not just that one act. It's now reverberating through hundreds of millions of people who are seeing this clip online. I mean, if people think they aren't getting traumatized by seeing stuff like that, that is creating something in your brain that is not healthy.
Yeah.
And it's affecting you. So that's when you think of MK Ultra. I'm not saying that incident was that because that seemed like an organic thing, but a lot of this stuff is not organic. A lot of this stuff put on screens for you to see and for you to digest, and secret messages encoded in things are 100% meant to long game. I've found more than anything, they just want you to stray away from God. They want us completely pineal gland calcified, dead inside. Everything's materialism. You know, there's nothing higher. There's no higher order. There's no larger truth to your reality. You're just here on a rock. You used to be an ape.
Yeah.
And now some of you can talk and use iPhones. That's what they want you to live like and be. Because that's a godless way of being. And not even that it's like makes you do bad things. It's that it keeps you separated from knowing what you really are, which is a spiritual creature having a human experience, and that you have an entire creator that cares about you. You know, they don't want you to have that empowerment, because
Yeah.
more than anything, it's been extremely empowering to come to my faith and my relationship with God. And I realized like, oh, this is what they don't want you to have. This is what they don't want you to have. This is like gold. So that's the plan long term, is just keeping people sheltered from God, which is scary.
That is scary. I don't know what the.
Because they want to be their own gods. I mean, that's the entire ideology of the bloodlines and the groups that do run things. Because make no mistake, it is bloodlines and it's generational, because it's called blue blood for a reason. That still exists. You know, it's a reason why it's incest going on up at the palace in the UK. And I don't know. There's just so many of these weird incidents, like the Pizzagate stuff.
What are your thoughts on that? You think it's
Well, it was, yeah. Maybe not every aspect, and that's how they try to get you, is you end up wrong about one aspect of it.
Right.
But clearly there was a trafficking ring happening. And if you trace back the main guy who was running it, who owned the pizza shop, you trace back his name just 2 generations. What was he, a Rothschild or a Rockefeller? I think he was a Rothschild. But he was a bloodline. And he just happens to have this pizza shop that all these politicians that, you know what I mean? It always boils down to that's the real people running things. And I think people can feel lately that it's not really the president necessarily running things.
Yeah.
With the Epstein stuff, I think that became more clear than ever. Like, I don't think Trump has as much power as we think.
I don't think any one person has that much power. I think it's like what you're saying.
The thing is, you start to get all these labels that end up actually, you
It's
can
the
really
same
just
thing, right?
consolidate them into one thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's why when it comes to my family, it's like I call them Rosicrucians first and foremost, but you could just as easily be like, I come from a Masonic family because they were all Freemasons, or I come from an occult family in general because that's the general umbrella of it. So all those belief systems end up just being one anti-God thing at the top. And not even so much only anti-God, but also just pro them being gods. There's a reason why they want to roll over in the way they do. So it's really about making themselves God, not even so much getting rid of God, just they want to be God.
What are your thoughts on afterlife? You believe in it?
Yeah, I feel like you kind of have to, as a once you sort of awaken to, like, spirituality for me is kind of realizing that we're like a fish in a fishbowl and the water is the spiritual. You know, it's all around us. We're swimming in it, whether you believe it or not. It's just a matter of if you tune into it. So once I tuned into it, I was like, this probably means that our souls live forever, just logically. I mean, if we're more than our bodies, that means the body dying doesn't mean anything.
But do you believe in like a heaven or hell, or do you
Oh,
believe
yeah.
in reincarnation?
Yeah. I don't know about reincarnation. I've heard some people say that the earliest Christianity did believe in reincarnation, so it's something I want to look into and see if that's true and why that was taken out. But maybe, you know, the thing is that all of it is like a maybe. But I do know that the soul clearly goes on. You know, that's what not only the Bible talks about, so that's part of Christian faith, but also it's way too many near-death experiences with people with their consciousness doing weird things that no one can explain, except you can explain it. What I realized is, like, a lot of people talk about things that have no explanation, like supernatural things, and I'm like, no, those things have explanations. It's just that they don't have the explanation that you want. You want to fit it through a scientific lens. And by the way, only science of like the past, like 1900 until now, certainly there's been runs of civilizations that have had a way different understanding of science than now, right? It's how were the pyramids made? So clearly science is something that we don't have fully down. That's number one. And number two, it has a spiritual explanation, which you also can see just because we don't know all of it yet. Clearly spirituality has a scientific explanation too. So it's not that, you know, near-death experiences where someone can like hear like, I've heard a lot of them where like their body will rise up and they'll enter another room in the hospital and hear a conversation there was no way they could have had, stuff like that. There is an explanation. It's that spirituality is real. God is real. You're not a body. You're something more. And if it comes down to heaven and hell and the concept of who goes where, I think that's obviously only God's, you know, only God. Like I don't even steer to that. I mean, I step away from even saying things like, you see a really bad person on television, like, oh, that mother effer's in hell right now. It's like, I don't even like saying that because, like, how do I know?
Yeah.
How do I know?
I struggle with that one. I don't think there's a hell. I honestly don't. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Maybe there is some form of like a purgatory or something where you will go until your soul kind of atones in a certain amount of time before you're allowed to kind of free roam. But I feel like I don't even know if heaven's real, to be honest. I'm not sure where we would go as a, when you die. I've done 5-MeO, DMT, and a lot of mushrooms. Like when I got out of the military, I used that to like help with my TBI and PTSD. Like even just learning how to like talk again. Like it
Hmm.
was very hard. Probably 3 years, I couldn't even hold a conversation.
Oh wow.
It's like my brain was scrambled. It's like like when you cross your eyes, but
Yeah.
that's how your brain feels, and you kind of have to like clear through all this fuzzy walls. Like it just feels like your brain's just
I
it's
do know what you're
it's
talking about.
complicated. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so I did a lot of mushrooms and DMT, and like when I was in that experience, I felt like I got to peek behind the veil of
Mm.
death, like, especially with the DMT. It's the most
Yes.
psychedelic thing out there. Have you ever done DMT?
Hmm.
What was your experience with it?
Yeah, my DMT experience was another one of those logical understandings that God is real and that
Yeah,
it's not just us here. So
but
I did it, and I had contact with something that wasn't human too, for sure.
really,
Yeah.
yeah. See, I didn't. I've told it before on my podcast, but I know there's gonna be a lot of viewers that haven't seen it. But when I did DMT, because you hear everything, going into it, everybody's like, "Oh, you're gonna meet God, or you'll meet your grandfather, or whatever." I didn't meet anybody in person, but like when I was in it, it felt like I was inside this gigantic golden honeycomb, and each of the combs was an individual fractal. With the music that they were playing in this, it's like a wedding banquet hall kind of thing, and the whole it was like I was inside God, like I
Mm.
was inside of the engine that's running the universe, and it was just like so powerful.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember just being like totally freaked out, like what the fuck is this? Like it was so intense, like it was shaking me to the core, so intense, and I was like, if this is the other side of the veil, like when we pass away, we're going back into this realm, like it's fucking nerve wracking. Like it's so like astonishing.
Yeah.
Like you're in awe of how powerful it is, but it made me realize how powerful God is,
Hmm.
right? Or the universe or whatever you believe in. Um, I remember thinking like, what the reality we're allowed to see with our eyes is nothing compared to what He's capable of.
Yeah. It's
Like,
so limited, right?
yeah, like it was that intense. And at a certain point, I woke up during it and I took the mask off because I wanted to see what it looked like, look with my eyes open. And the people that were in the room with me, I made eye contact with each one of them, and I had like a telepathic connection for a few seconds with each one. Like there was no walls, there was
Hmm.
no secrets, there was no regrets. You know
Yes.
what I mean? It was just like one to one pure connection, and they could see me and I could see them, and it was just like then it went back to normal. But I was like, holy fuck, man!
Yeah.
Like it was the most insane thing I've ever done. So that's gotten me to think about life in general and what it is, and I'm not sure if there's a heaven or hell. Like I find religion fascinating, especially that a book that was written that long ago can still have such an impact today,
Hmm.
right? I mean, name another author that their book people are still reading that book that long after it's originally written. You know what I mean? Like so, to me, I find that fascinating, and the messages are still relating to people in their everyday life now. So there's something there. I just don't know if it's like one or the other or this or that or a combination of all of it, and we're just too stupid as a species to understand how the puzzle pieces fit together just yet. I still think manifestation is a big part of this that doesn't get talked about enough.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of reality with manifestation, and I mean some of the biggest artists, the biggest successful people in this world right now accredit it to manifesting. You know,
Yeah. I
um,
mean, that's the power of your mindset and intention, which there is, the universe really does take movement when that happens. And so that's how you know that things like magic and all that stuff is real, because that's what that is. It's honing in your intention for something.
mm,
And all those things can be for good or for bad or whatever. But all of them seem to be touching on what you said about like it's all the pieces that but they're scattered and we have to just put them together. That's how I see it,
mhm.
which is like a lot of things are just synonyms for other things. like manifestation is just synonym for, you know, a spell or a ritual or whatever. And then like telepathy is just, you know, that's what we do with God when we talk to God too, when you can just see God and God can see you. Like, so a lot of these things are consolidated from lots of different beliefs. And so it's important to look at the things that all of the beliefs hang on to for a really long time. I always like to look at what sticks. So like a lot of things that stick ended up having like a bunch of different phrases for them, if that makes sense. And then as far as like if there's a heaven or a hell for sure, whatever. I mean, even like I did DMT and I also had an experience that showed me I think of it as like the 5D, which is the fractals and the sacred geometry. And then you wonder, okay, so that clearly makes sense why, you know, different spiritual groups have always studied sacred geometry and why it's such a big thing. And you look at all this art of angels from back in the day, the biblically accurate angels, and how there are these sacred geometrical patterns and stuff. It's like, okay, so I'm getting that those are probably all 5-dimensional beings, and for whatever reason, DMT or certain drugs can give us a limited. It's probably still just so limited, clearly,
I know, that's
because our
crazy, man.
perception still goes into it, right? So it's like we don't even know what we're looking at. But I agree that I had that feeling too, where I was like, if this is what happens like after you die, which you release DMT when you die, so there's good reason to think it does. It's kind of like I don't know what I'm getting myself into. How
I
do I move
know.
around? How do I exist? And then you're like, but then again, you can't move because you're not physical. I get it. And I also had afterwards the people I was around in the room. I don't know about like telepathic, but like I saw them and they saw me thing. I was like, oh, there's like no boundaries between like
Yeah.
us right now,
Yeah.
you know? So it's interesting that people have such a parallel experience with DMT that you could be saying all that and I could be like, yup, I know that. I know that. Because when you come to other drugs, you know, man-made drugs and things that people trip on for fun, party drugs, you can have one person tripping out like the aliens are coming to get me and one person like I've never been this happy in my life. Whereas DMT, everyone seems to have an elevating experience that maybe frightens them, but no one stays on this plane.
How many times have you done DMT?
I think like 3, maybe 4. Nothing beats the first time though. Oh my God. And I haven't done it in years. And I do not abuse, I never abused it. I always respected it. I was like, I'm doing this because I need answers about something. I had an intention. You know, it's not like lighting up a bowl or smoking weed or something. It's way different because you leave.
Yeah.
You don't stay where you are.
Have you heard about that new thing that is going around where they use like a red laser pointer? Have you seen this?
Yeah, and you can see coding.
Yeah, they say they can see the coding that is like the hidden blueprint of reality itself.
I believe it. I haven't
I
tried
want
it.
to try it. Like,
I
it
want to
sounds
try
incredible. I want to do it like on a podcast, like because I think they just shine a laser at a wall,
it.
right? And then they take DMT, and then they go down there, and you have to get like really close and look through the red laser beam, and it says you'll see the coding of this matrix that we're in, or something.
I believe it. I believe it
Like
because
ones and zeros.
yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
I mean, we're clearly in something technological. Even our brains run by electricity, you know? It's like
Good point.
we're clearly in something technological. And I could see how maybe a lot of people would take that as like, then you're discrediting that it's spiritual. Well, I think technology can be spiritual too. I mean, you look at the stories of the fallen angels from the Bible, and what do they get in trouble for giving technology to people, to mankind? So technology's been around forever.
Yeah. Why
And-
can't they all exist? I don't understand.
Right, because people need to fit it through one lens.
Yeah.
And when it's something so profound, it's going to fit through every lens, really. But like spirituality fits through every lens for me, from a historic point of view, a scientific point of view, from a psychological point of view, a physical, material, everything. But, you know, people expect it to meet them where they're at. And I realized that's not how it works. It doesn't come to you.
Yeah.
You have to surrender and you have to be willing to meet that reality. It's not going to come exactly how you want it and through this like sci-fi lens or you know what I mean? I had a supernatural experience that proved God to me, but it wasn't like you know, it couldn't fit through a scientific material lens,
Yeah.
you know?
Do you believe in the simulation theory? Have you done a lot of research on that?
Yeah. And I think that there's actually a lot of backing for that from a Christian perspective too. I mean, I'm taking it all back to there, but if you look at Gnostic Christianity, which was early Christianity, the entire premise of that is that we live in a false reality, you know, created by Satan, the demiurge, whatever word you want to use, and that Jesus woke up to it and ascended like Neo, and that's why Neo is like the archetype of Jesus or whatever. It all like kind of connects.
Yeah.
So like a lot of like Gnostic Christians see like the movie The Matrix as like a story about life and how this all happened. So I think we clearly live in something fake. I think that there's probably levels to it where it probably does end up being just some like holographic fractal sort of thing where like, you know, we can see each other, but are we here? But what does that even mean?
Yeah. The scary part for me with the simulation theory is that it repeats itself. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where it's like it loses me my thought process and wrapping my brain around this. Whereas, you know, the simulation theory goes is you have a civilization of people that grow to the level of intelligence where they can create their own simulation, right? And then that will grow and create its own simulation, and it just keeps going on and it keeps repeating for who knows how long.
Like how we play The Sims.
Exactly. That's why it creeps me out, because we're already creating our own simulations.
Yeah.
How long until that Fortnite game your kid's playing is an actual universe with actual people?
And then it gets down to like the order of the dimensions, right? So it's like 2D would be like The Sims. 3D is me playing The Sims.
Yeah.
4D is already out of the grasp of what we can understand at all.
Yeah.
But when you smoke certain things,
Right.
you can start to, I think, get a peek at maybe it's not even 5D, maybe it's 4D, maybe it's that complicated, but it's still, you know what I mean? Because imagine trying to explain to a sim what this is.
Yeah.
Like, it just wouldn't work.
Well,
So,
you would have to create a book that would last the ages of that civilization. So it's the culmination of all the rules for you to live by if you want to play this game properly. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
the Bible's like the rule book for the game.
Yeah, yeah. And all religions are. It's everyone just trying to explain what the hell is going on and why we're here. Like sometimes I can feel like I'm tripping on DMT just asking myself the question and really asking it, not lightheartedly being like, where are we?
That's the biggest
Why are we
question.
doing why is there a table here? Why are we
here?
have microphone? What's a microphone? What's the purpose? Why is my hair like that? Why? And you can start to be like, okay, all of it's kind of fake, which is fine because I think we're probably here to learn lessons, right? Like we're probably here to get something for our soul out of it. The same way that when we turn on a video game in this dimension, we're trying to get something out of it, which is entertainment, fun. I guess you can probably get lessons from games, whatever. But it's clearly some other stuff above us.
Yeah. Well, we're at the 1.5 hour mark. I think this is a good spot to wrap up anyways.
Okay.
What do you got going on next? Like, let everybody know where they can find you. And thank you for coming on, by the way.
You can find me, just search me up, Blaire White. I think I'm the only Blaire White on everything. And just videos coming. I'm moving back to California soon, and I'm going to be running for office there later on. Not right away. No one hold me to that right away. But I have, a lot coming down the pipeline.
Wow, you gonna run for office?
In California, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we need. Well, I wish you the best of luck, and I'm a big fan. So
Thank you.
thanks again for coming. Bye, everybody.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?